Policy. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Senate Environment, Natural Resources Policy and Legacy Finance Committee. Today is Monday, March 14th, 2022. It's approximately 1 p.m. Welcome to the committee. Our first order of business, let the record show that there is a quorum. Our first order of business is Senate File 1844, Senator Utke. This bill will be laid over. Senator Utke, when you are ready.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and members. Senate File 1844 is a bill that comes from Hubbard County. This bill would allow Hubbard County to sell tax forfeited land and deposit the monies in a trust fund established by the county. This trust fund would have a $1 million limit, and the principal and interest from this fund may only be spent to purchase lands offered for sale by the conversion, I can't even type right, so it's conservation fund, or lands considered better suited for retention by Hubbard County. And being that I couldn't put my notes together, I do have Mark Chip Lohmeyer, who is our Hubbard County Land Commissioner, who can explain to you what this proposal is about and what they would do with the proceeds and how they would spend them and better manage the lands in Hubbard County. So with that, Madam Chair, if we could bring on Mr. Lohmeyer. He is attending via the Zoom link.
Thank you, Senator Utke. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Lohmeyer. I believe you are audio only, so welcome. Please identify yourself and proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Mark Lohmeyer. I am the Hubbard County Land Commissioner. And as Mr. Utke mentioned, we are trying to pass this bill in order to establish a land replacement trust fund. Hubbard County has approximately the third largest amount of former potlatch lands in the state of Minnesota at just over 10,000 acres. And it is our intentions that between Hubbard County and the state of Minnesota that we would acquire a large portion of those for forest management purposes, recreation purposes, habitat retention and improvement. And the way that the tax forfeited sales fund is set up is that every year, at the end of the year, we have to apportion the net proceeds of our tax forfeited sales fund. So every year we start with a zero-sum balance, and if we cannot complete a land sale or a land purchase within that year, we lose those funds for the acquisition of other lands. And so the purpose of this trust fund is that we would have funds available and use those to purchase not only conservation fund lands, but also other lands that are deemed beneficial to the management and for Hubbard County and to preserve and manage those forest lands.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? Senator Sinjum.
Madam Chair, just maybe to our lawyer, does this take legislation to do?
Mr. Lohmeyer. Oh, I'm sorry. That question was to whom?
To our council.
Oh, sorry.
Madam Chair, Senator Sinjum, members, yes, it does, because there's a statute in Chapter 282, which is the tax forfeited land chapter. It's 282.08 that governs the disposition of proceeds from tax forfeited land sales. And while this is one of the permissible uses under that statute, it's currently capped at 30%. And so this would scoop the first $1 million of proceeds from those sales without that 30% limit.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Sinjum. Members, are there? Everyone have F1?
F1 or F4?
F1. All right, then. Okay. Good. Okay, members, that's better, thank you. Seeing no more questions or discussions, Senator Utke, your Senate File 1844 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Members, next up is Senate File 2869, Senator Goggin. Welcome to the committee. Members, this bill will also be laid over.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members.
Senator Goggin, when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. What we have before you is similar to what you just heard from Senator Utke. Goodhue County is looking to convey some tax forfeited land that borders public water. We need to have the DNR per state statute approve the sale of the land per the statutes 282. And what it is Wanamingo, the city of Wanamingo, would like to purchase that land and use that as part of their Wanamingo Nature and Scenic Wildlife District with the intent of extending the nature trail in the area. So that's the extent of the bill, Madam Chair and committee members. And I think the DNR is on the call as well if they'd like to have a few, speak a few words about the bill as well. But I do not see any issues with the DNR approving this sale.
Thank you, Senator Goggin. Members, are there any questions? Well, Senator Goggin, we're letting you off easy today. With that, Senate File 2869 will be laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair, members.
Okay, Senator Bakk is on his way. And members, while we're waiting for Senator Bakk, there is a very good handout in your packets. Maybe look that over while Senator Bakk is on his way. man of the hour, Senator Bakk. You just didn't realize we run such an efficient committee.
Hey, Madam Chair, this is the classic example of a dollar waiting on a dime.
Welcome to the committee, Senator Bakk. Members, before us, we have Senate File 3268. Senator Bakk, when you're ready.
Madam Chair, I think we have an amendment.
Members, we have the A2 amendment.
Madam Chair, this is the first committee, so if we could adopt that just to get the bill in shape.
All right, thank you, Senator Bakk.
Adoption of the A2, Madam Chair.
Senator Sendu moves the adoption of the A2 amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Senator Bakk, to your bill.
Well, Madam Chair and members of the committee, back when I was a member across the street over in the House, there was a lot of talk about creating safe harbors along the north shore of Lake Superior. And two harbors, and we built several of them. McQuaid Axis, we did one at Silver Bay, we did one up at Taconite Harbor. I think there's a total of 9 in law. One of them was going to be in two harbors, and the whole point was so that boaters, when they're out on the lake and bad weather came up, they'd be able to get to some shelter in a reasonable period of time before the weather overtook them. One of the things that we did was the city of Two Harbors wanted to participate and have a safe harbor built downtown. So there was a parcel of property in the same bay that the DM&R ore docks are in, where there was some privately owned land there. And so we appropriated some bond funds to purchase, for DNR to purchase that land, and the intent was to build a marina there and a safe harbor. And what ended up happening was it took several years to finally get the deal negotiated between the private owner of the land and the DNR. And then I think in 2003 or 4, the DNR actually, MMB sold the bonds and we actually purchased the land. Well, in the meantime of all of that, because it took so long, Congressman Oberstar had gotten $3.5 million to the Army Corps of Engineers for a federal match to help with this. In the meantime, Hurricane Katrina came along, and our project wasn't ready to go yet, and so the federal government was looking for some funds. So they pulled their $3.5 million of federal money out of Two Harbors project and moved it down to Hurricane Katrina. So the project really fell apart. So now we've got a situation where, and I think you've got a map in your packet, where of the lakefront we're talking about, this one right here, there's 4 parcels here. 2 of them, if you look at the map right side up, the 2 on the right, the DNR with some federal funds has built a boat landing there. Very nice boat landing with the associated parking. So what we're really talking about is the 2 parcels to the left, 1415 and 605. Those have nothing on them, and you can see right above them on the sheet is really where the downtown of the city of Two Harbors is. So the city of Two Harbors would like to enter the master planning process to try get some development on these parcels that really are between the city and the lake shore. So, and I think DNR probably would tell you they really don't have any use for the land. The point was to do a marina there. The marina is not going to happen. So what the bill does is convey these parcels to the city, and I'm going to have to look at the actual language. I think there's still some debt service on those bonds, so we'll have to carry something in the capital investment bill to defease those bonds before they can be transferred. Otherwise, MMB can't transfer them. So there's also some language in the amendment that says to the unless prohibited by federal law, and DNR would know better than I would, but if there's any federal money associated with this purchase or development that would prohibit it, then clearly the DNR cannot transfer those. I just wanted to be clear on that so that the city understood from the very beginning here, if the federal government has something in the way here, it's a situation with the federal government. It's not the fault of the DNR that the transfer can't be made. So that really is just kind of some clarity so that everybody understands that maybe all or part of this can't be done because of how the project is commingled with some federal funds that may be involved in it. Mr. Chairman, I have a representative of the city here who does economic development for the city, and I think she'd like to talk about what the city's hope is to be able to develop this property.
Thank you, Senator Bakk. And Ms. Sturbins, welcome to the committee, and please identify yourself for the record and proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. I'm Jennifer Sturbins, and I'm the Community Development Planner for the City of Two Harbors. Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Senator Bakk is correct in that these parcels were purchased by the DNR years ago, and they have sat vacant. The city has had a strong desire over the last couple decades to get aggressive and develop those properties to stimulate some economic growth in our downtown area, promote tourism, and capitalize on the regional recreational opportunities that exist on the shore. If you looked on page 3 of the handout, you can see, it's not color-coded, but there is a section on the top where you can see Castle Danger. That is the historic downtown. And then the parcels that are included in Bill 3268 are towards the bottom. So you can see that there's a strong connection between Old Downtown and the waterfront. Castle Danger Brewery, if you don't know where Two Harbors is, you've probably heard of Castle Danger Brewery. They constructed on the very west end of the downtown. And then if you look to the east, parcel 6612, that's privately owned, and they're in the middle of a development agreement with somebody for potentially a boutique hotel with the North Shore vibe. So we would have a nice anchor on the west end and a nice anchor on the east end, and that just leaves endless possibilities for that blank slate in the middle. So the city is really excited we hope to get those 2 green spaces back. We've had a lot of planning done over the years. There's some conceptual drawings on page 4 and 5. The city has also assembled the Waterfront Task Front Committee in the last year. We've allocated $75,000 in our comprehensive capital improvement plan for waterfront planning. We were the recipient of an ARDC Brownfield grant, one of 6 cities that are participating. And so that will enable us to get some phase 1 and phase 2 testing done on that property, and then there'll be some money left over for planning. This would be a huge acquisition for the city. It's an undeveloped asset that it's truly our greatest asset. And then this also falls into the jurisdiction of the North Shore Management Board. So there are strict regulations when it does come to development that will protect the shoreline. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I should have said,
Senator
the
Bakk.
amendment looks like it's real substantive because it's got a lot of lines on it, but when we drafted the original bill to kind of get a vehicle in place, we just used the county parcel numbers. And so it took us a little while to actually get the legal descriptions of the land. So really the amendment is the same property. It's just rather than described by county tax parcel, it's described by legal description. So I should have said that when we adopted it.
Thank you, Senator Bakk. And Senator Bakk and members, I do believe that Bob Meyer from the DNR would like to make comment, and then we'll go to questions. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Meyer. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Madam Chairman, thank you. For the record, Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Natural Resources. We have been working with Senator Bakk on this issue, and we are comfortable trying to figure out a path to dispose the upper 2 parcels, 01415 and 06605, if you look at that map on page 5. The other 2 parcels contain the boat access and parking lot for our boat access site right there. And that does have substantial federal aid for sports fishing dollars and other federal aid interests in there. So there would be ways to convey that to the city if they were willing to take care of it and maintain it for the next 40 years. I don't know if they really want to take care of our boat access site or not. But we are more than willing to work with Senator Bakk and the city to figure out a path forward to transfer those 2 parcels up on top, as they are no longer serving the purpose for which we acquired them for.
Thank you. Members, are there questions?
Madam Chair?
Senator Senjum.
Mr. Meyer, could you just go through those numbers again?
Mr. Myers.
Madam Chair, the numbers that were comfortable,
Well, you don't have to go through the whole numbers, Mr.
the last five,
You know, the last two or three.
okay, so there's 415 and 605 are the two parcels that are vacant, and the city would like to develop. I understand they like the entire piece, but the other pieces, 615 and 620, actually contain the boat access and parking lot right now.
Senator Senjum.
Thank you. Well, just so I understand, looks like the bill suggests we convey all of them, right?
Mr. Meyer or Senator Bakk?
What was the question again?
I'm just trying to identify, so on line 113 and to 118, it lists, 5 parcels, I think. And that's the intent to convey all of these parcels to the city, right?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bakk.
and I'd have to defer to council, but I believe the legal descriptions actually just more define the county tax ID parcels, but it's the same parcels of land. It's just got the legal description rather than the county tax parcel ID.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So all of the parcels are included, but they can't be conveyed if they're federally encumbered for some purpose that there was federal money put in. And the reason I wanted to leave those other two parcels in is I did have a conversation with the mayor about there is a way that the city could acquire those two additional parcels with the parking and the boat ramp. They would have to be willing to take on whatever obligations the federal government has, all the maintenance and whatever else is required by the federal government in order for the city to actually manage the boat launch and the parking rather than the DNR. And the city hasn't ruled that out as a possibility, so I just want to give them rather than take the parcels out of here completely, kind of leave it so that there would be a way where the city could work with the DNR and I imagine I don't know if it's the Army Corps who it is federally, but to potentially, if they were interested, take over the boat launch part of it. But I don't actually expect that to happen. The mayor was a little excited about that, and I said, Mayor, you realize how long 40 years is? And we're talking about probably replacing the boat ramp and resurfacing the parking lot and who knows what else, right? So I'm not sure it's not the piece that the city really wants to have. They want the development piece, but I wouldn't want to preempt them from entering into those discussions either.
Thank you, Senator Bakk. Members, are there any other questions? Well, without further discussion, Senator Bakk, Senate File 3268 will be laid over for possible inclusion.
As amended, Madam Chair.
As amended.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Members, now before us, we have Senate File 3704. And Senator Weber, would you take the chair, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will turn to 3704. This is Senator Ruud's bill, and there is the A3 amendment, which would qualify as the author's amendment. At this point, Senator Ruud moves the bill and the amendment. We will have a vote on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. With that, Madam Chair, please proceed.
Thank you, Senator Weber. Members, this is the annual lands bill that we do every year to transfer lands and parcels. It has been vetted by the DNR, and Susan Damon, of course, is here to testify. I will tell you that the A3 amendment is the bills that we have heard in committee so far that we have laid over to be included. And most of them have been worked out. Some of them had a few issues, and the DNR has been working with the authors to make sure that they're in the shape that they need to go into this bill. So with that, Mr. Chair, I believe Susan Damon is virtual today.
Okay. Welcome, Ms. Damon. Please identify yourself for the record, and you may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Senator Ruud, and members. Susan Damon, Assistant Director, DNR Division of Lands and Minerals, to walk you through the bill today. So sections 1 through 3 of this year's lands bill pertain to fees that an applicant must pay for an easement across state land or for the release of an easement that is held by the DNR over someone else's land. There are some circumstances where the DNR's land management interests actually benefit either from issuance of or release of an easement. And in those circumstances, the DNR would like the flexibility not to have to impose all of the fees required by law on the applicant. The proposed changes in sections 1 through 3 of the bill would give the DNR the flexibility to assume the $2,000 application fee for an easement or easement release and to assume or waive other fees in those laws. Section 4 amends Minnesota Statute Section 92.502. This clarifies that the 30-year leases of DNR's facilities under Section 92.502 are permitted even if they are not associated with recreational trails. And Section 5, I do have some maps, and Annalee Garlitz from the DNR is going to share her screen with those maps starting in Section 5. Thank you. So Section 5 of the bill adds 11.5 acres to the boundary of Myrie Big Island State Park and Freeborn County. The DNR is pursuing acquisition of approximately 58.5 acres of land that is already within the state park boundary. The 58.5 acres are directly to the south of the 11.5 acres that the DNR is requesting to add to the state park boundary. The 11.5 acres are shown in blue on the map, and the 58.5 acre parcel that's already within the state park boundary that we're pursuing acquisition of is directly below that. The owner of the 58.5 acre parcel also owns the 11.5 acre parcel that is being added, and he has informed the DNR Division of Parks and Trails that he will not agree to the sale of the 58.5 acre parcel unless the DNR also acquires the 11.5 acre parcel. So in order to complete the acquisition of both parcels, we are seeking the state park boundary change. Moving on to Section 6. Section 6 deletes 7,482 acres from the boundary of the Cloquet Valley State Forest in St. Louis County. The deleted acres are shown within the park boundary here on the map, and they are surrounded by black ink within the Cloquet Valley State Forest. So in last year's lands bill, the Riverland State Forest was created and included these parcels. But those parcels that are shown with the black outline here are also currently within the existing Cloquet Valley State Forest boundary. The proposed deletion clarifies that the lands are only part of the Riverland State Forest and not also parts of the Cloquet Valley State Forest. Moving on to Section 7 of the bill. This section adds 121.5 acres to the boundary of Riverland State Forest, St. Louis County, and those parcels are shown in red with a black outline on this map. These parcels are being added. It's a technical change to add acres already owned by the DNR that were inadvertently omitted from the 2021 legislation creating the Riverland State Forest. Section 8 of the bill authorizes the public sale of 29.6 acres of surplus riparian land in Cass County. And that's shown in blue here on the map. This land was acquired in 1948 and 1960 and comprises the Agate Rearing Pond AMA. The DNR currently has no legal access to this unit, and it is no longer used for fish rearing. While the DNR is still pursuing acquisition of legal access, it is seeking legislative approval to sell the parcel in the event that efforts to gain legal access are unsuccessful. Section 9 of the bill authorizes the public sale of 9.53 acres of surplus riparian land in Fillmore County. The Division of Forestry identified this parcel for sale because it is small and isolated from other state land. There is no public access, and it is difficult to manage due to its size and location. The DNR will retain the Harmony-Preston Valley State Trail that crosses the parcel and will also retain trout stream easements on the Root River and on Watson Creek. Section 10 authorizes the private sale of approximately 0.55 acres of surplus riparian state land in Hennepin County to a local unit of government for less than market value. These lands were part of a bequest of lands from the estate of Bruce Dayton to the DNR for the Woodrill Scientific and Natural Area. The 0.55 acres abut Long Lake and are cut off from the remaining portions of the SNA by East Long Lake Road. The DNR has determined that these lands would be better managed by the city of Orono and is seeking authority to convey the lands to the city at no cost. Section 11 of the bill authorizes the public sale of 59 acres of surplus riparian state land in Itasca County. The 59 acres consist of two separate parcels that comprise the Trout Lake Eagle WMA. These lands were originally acquired to protect nesting eagles, but there are no longer eagles nesting on these sites. The lands are also of very low hunting value. Section 12 authorizes the private sale of 2 acres of surplus state land in Pine County. This strip of land was originally acquired in 1985 for the Kraft WMA. The strip of land was intended to provide access to the WMA. However, access was never developed in this location, and the DNR now has legal access in a parking lot at another location of the WMA. The DNR would like to sell this land to an adjoining private landowner. And finally, Section 13 authorizes the private sale of 0.05 acres of surplus riparian state land in Sherburne County for less than market value. This land is currently part of the Eagle Lake Water Access Site. The sale is proposed to an adjoining private landowner to resolve a trespass. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Damon. I have a question for you. As it relates to the Myrie Big Island State Park in Freeborn County, you mentioned that the tract that's, and that's on Section 5 of the maps that you handed out, you said that the area in blue is what you actually had wanted to buy. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, actually we intend to buy both the area in blue and then the parcel that is 58.5 acres that is directly to the south. As I mentioned, there's a landowner who owns both of the parcels or part of an interest in both of the parcels, and he wants to sell those to the DNR as a package. The larger parcel is already within the state park boundary, but in order to purchase the 11.5 acre parcel from him as well, we need to add that to the state park boundary.
Correct. And Ms. Damon, the 58 acres of additional land, is that currently cropland?
Mr. Chair, I will have to get back to you on that. I will have to reach out to our Division of Parks and Trails to get you an answer. But it is currently within the state park boundary, and the DNR tries to acquire and complete the entire park acquisition of lands that are still in holdings within the state park.
And so at that point, Ms. Damon, if you are acquiring this because that's the only way you can get the 11 acres, you have no intent of putting that back on the open market to private ownership, is that correct?
Mr. Chair, not that I am aware of.
Okay. And have you contacted the county board as it relates to this, this transaction?
Mr. Chair, I will need to consult with our Division of Parks and Trails. It is their practice to always consult with the county before making acquisitions that are within state park boundaries or additions to state park boundaries.
And the only reason I ask, Ms. Damon, is I look at the aerial map, it appears to me that this is an area of cropland. Now, there are certainly some wetter areas that are shown there in the aerial photography. However, with the current value of land, you know, that's a fairly significant acquisition in terms of total dollars. And I know that many rural counties get somewhat skittish because PILT payments typically do not make up the amount of tax revenue that is lost with ground, particularly nowadays with the where values are at. So that's why I was curious about the land and its quality. You know, all I can tell from the aerial photo is that it has probably been cropped in the past. I just don't know if it continues to be or what have you. And I would like further information on that if you could provide it.
Mr. Chair, I would be happy to get that information for you.
Thank you. Any further questions, members? Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to Ms. Damon, maybe just give me a little lesson on, so I see these terms, public sale, private sale, and conveyance. And I think I know what a public sale is, but in several cases within these documents, the primary bill and the amendment, we talk about in a private sale that we're going to return it to private ownership. So is that a private sale to a selected private individual? Or what does that mean when we say we're going to return it to private ownership under a private sale proposal?
Ms. Damon.
Mr. Chair, Senator Senjum, yes, where the reference is that we're planning to return it to private ownership means that we would sell it to a specific individual, but that individual would be a private party rather than a governmental entity.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Senjum.
And then the other one, in the cases of, in the amendment to, I think the city of Wanamingo and Two Harbors, we're talking in terms of conveyance. And in the situation with respect to Hennepin County, we're talking about a private sale to a local unit of government. So the question is, why does Hennepin County pay and Two Harbors and Wanamingo get a conveyance? Is it just the way it is?
Ms. Damon.
Mr. Chair, Senator Senjum, those were just, the sale and conveyance are interchangeable, and the Hennepin County conveyance is going to be for less than market value. In fact, the DNR does not intend to assess any charge to the city of Orono. I believe that the sales in Lake County and Goodhue County are also, the way the bills are drafted are for no consideration. So the city of Wanamingo and the city of Two Harbors, based on the bills as they are drafted, currently would not have to pay
So, Mr. Chair,
Senator
just,
Sinzer.
so whenever we see private sale to a local unit of government, it's probably this, conveyance, they're interchangeable terms, is that right?
Mr.
Ms.
Chair,
Damon?
Mr. Chair, Senator Senjum, yes, they're interchangeable.
Okay, thank you for that lesson.
Then also, we do have listed Gregory Bernew from the Carlton County Land Commissioner's Office. Mr. Bernew, we would turn it to you at this point for your comments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, my name is Gregory J. Bernew. I'm the Carlton County Land Commissioner, speaking on behalf of the Land Commissioners for the A3 Amendment. On the E3 Amendment lines 4.29 to 4.32, in meetings with the DNR Commissioner's Office last week and Ms. Damon and Mr. Meyer, we added a little extra language into this this subdivision for the conservation easements, whereby prior to the counties establishing a conservation easement by easement on tax forfeited property, we would consult with the DNR. The purpose for this is not all counties, and I'll speak to my county specifically, although I do have a degree from a college in Minnesota. I'm not well versed in mineral rights, other types of rates below the surfaces that we can't find out. So I rely heavily upon the DNR for consult. So if I were to have my board enter into any kind of conservation easement on TF lands, I would definitely consult with the DNR prior to find out what am I missing. So we rewrote the language that I testified on last week to include that type of language where the county auditor or his agent will consult with the DNR prior to establishing a conservation easement.
Thank you. Members, any further questions for either testifier? If not, Senator Ruud, do you have any final comments?
Mr. Chair and members, thank you for your attention to detail in this bill, and we've heard this language before, and I want to thank Ms. Damon for her diligence in really looking through all the land pieces to make sure that we do make good decisions, and I hope that she gets back to you, Senator Weber, on those questions you had. So thank you, members. I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Ruud moves that 3704, as amended, be recommended to pass and be re-referred to the Environment Finance Committee. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. The bill is hereby re-referred. Then we will turn to Senate File 2767 and the Natural Resources Provisions Modification. To the bill, Senator Ruud.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I have an author's amendment, the A2 amendment.
Okay, the A2 amendment, author's amendment, we will,
I believe it's being passed out, Mr. Chair.
okay, you have it here, okay. All right, we'll wait for that to get passed out.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, while it's being passed out, maybe
Please
I'll
do.
explain a little bit about what this is. This is an issue that we have had before, and it has worked very well. And it simply, it has expired, and we want to, we'd like to reenact the date on it and push it forward. It is portable stands in northeast Minnesota, and it's worked very well. And so we want to continue this practice, and so this just extends the expiration date.
Okay. And you've heard the amendment, and all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Is there an A3 amendment also, Madam
Yes,
Chair?
Mr. Chair. I have the A3 amendment, which is also being passed out, I believe. Or is it out? On its way. And Mr. Chair, while that's being passed out, this is simply a DNR technical change. They found a couple errors that they wanted to make sure were correct in the bill.
Okay. Very good. With that, members, any questions concerning the A3 amendment? If not, all those in favor of the A3 amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. The A3 amendment is adopted. Next.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Mr. Chair.
Senator.
This puts the bill in the order that we need it to be in. This is the annual DNR policy bill, and I believe we have some expert testifiers to go through the bill for us.
Very good. Thank you, Senator Ruud. With that, we will turn to Jason Garms of the DNR. Well, welcome to the committee, Mr. Garms, and please identify yourself for the record, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. I'm Jason Garms, Minnesota DNR. I work within the Government Relations Unit. And the bill before you is a suite of policy-related and technical changes for multiple programs that the DNR administers. The proposed changes allow us to be adaptive in our management of the state's resources and responsive to public input. So a number of these things are modernizing older definitions, providing clarity, simplifying different procedures, increasing recreational opportunities. So what I'd like to do is to walk through each of those pieces, just briefly describe them, try to move through each of those, and then see where the questions may lie.
Very good.
So starting with the permitting efficiency deadline, this is found in section 1. This is changing the annual permitting efficiency report deadline from August 1st to October 1st. And the reason for that is just allowing the agency to gather all information necessary to do a good report and to be able to do that in a timely way. Moving to the next section, which is snowmobile registration display. This is found in a number of sections, sections 2, 3, 4, 5, 18, and 19. This is related to simplifying and streamlining the display of snowmobile registration decals. Currently, the registration decals are too small to be able to determine if they're valid as when the machine is in motion. Moving to a larger decal would provide for easier registration verification. Currently, they're about the size of a business card, and this moves them to something that you might see a little larger, like the boat registration decal, something of that scale. Moving to the next would be the Greenleaf State Recreational Area. This would allow the Greenleaf State Recreational Area to be connected to the Loose Line State Trail, extending recreational use of the trail, connecting the city of Hutchinson to the Greenleaf State Recreational Area. Moving to the next, which is found in section 7, the authority to set business policies. This is related to the commissioner's ability to set reservation policies in state parks via written order. So currently, the agency has that authority for reservations such as campsites and lodging. What this does is it adds day use facilities, tours, education programs, seminars, events, and rentals to that list, and really standardizes standardization of the reservation practices for all of those things and providing that consistency. Moving to the next, the timber permit postmark deadline. This is in section 8. This changes, this is related to the timber permit invoices and when those are due. The current language states paid within 30 days. This changes that to postmark within 30 days. And that's simply, there may be a slow mail delivery for some reason, and then to no fault of the permit holders, the fault that the mail just comes late. So it's just make sure that they don't get caught in that. So changing it from paid within 30 days to postmarked in 30 days. The next is related to deer hunting. There's two pieces here. First, in section 9, this relates to definitions around muzzleloaders. This would change the definition, particularly around unloaded, to modernize or update how that definition looks. This would make then the fire stick, muzzleloader, a legal firearm to use in the state for deer hunting. The next is found in section 14. This piece eliminates the shotgun zone, the current shotgun zone for deer hunting. thereby allowing the use of all legal firearms statewide during the regular firearms season. Moving to the next section, expanded uses on walk-in access areas. What this does is adds bird watching, photography, and other compatible uses to the purpose and eligibilities of walk-in access areas, in addition to hunting. And then the other A3 amendment, as we've seen, also cleans up some language there about disabled persons access. The next piece is related to wildlife management area accessibility. So in sections 11 and 18, what this is doing is striking any language referencing disabled hunters and changing that to people with disabilities. As we know, many of the people who are visiting wildlife management areas are not only there to hunt, so it's just making that language a little bit more inclusive, going from hunters that are disabled to just persons that are disabled. The next is found in section 12. This relates to applying for a resident hunting, fishing, and trapping license. What this will do is make a valid application for an identification card or a current tribal identification card as acceptable proof of residency when applying for those licenses. The next piece related to ground blind blaze requirements. What this would do is, in addition to the blaze clothing requirements, it adds that a person in a ground blind on public land must also have blaze orange or pink covering the top of the blind, which is for safety. The next is non-lethal hazing of elk and deer. This will allow property owners to non-lethally scare or haze deer or elk, causing damage to agricultural crops. The last is two-line river fishing. What this will do is make it allowable to fish with two lines on the Minnesota River, downstream of Granite Falls Dam, and on the Mississippi River, downstream of St. Anthony Falls, and that is to increase the recreational opportunities in those rivers. That's each of the pieces within, and I would stand for questions. I know we have some others in the agency too available for their specific questions.
Okay. Any questions, members? I was just going to comment, I think there's a meeting this week with Mr. Meyer and the commissioner and a few other people from the department. Are we going to make progress, Mr. Meyer, or are there some things I should be adding to this bill? Okay. Very good.
Mr. Chair, I believe also Assistant Commissioner Bob Meyer would like to testify as well.
Okay, very good. Mr. Meyer, welcome to the committee. Please identify yourself and you may proceed.
Mr. Chair, members, for the record, Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Natural Resources. I'm just here to answer any technical questions as well. Jason Garms did a great job presenting it. This is our annual policy bill. There are a number of provisions that we weren't able to get across the finish line last year due to nobody's fault. We just weren't able to come to agreement on some things that were agreed to by both bodies, and we're on both sides of the side-by-side. So we're hoping to get some of those things taken care of this year so that citizens of the state, for example, who may have purchased firearms that need to be made legal, we haven't given any citations, but we certainly want to make sure that people are recreating in conformities of the state laws. So we look forward to working with you all on this bill as it moves forward.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Meyer. And Rob Dorff, the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus. Welcome. Please identify yourself for the record, and you may proceed when you're ready.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Rob Dorr. I'm the Vice President of Government Relations for the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus. And we're very supportive of this legislation. Some of the things that cross over with the interests of our membership are the types of firearms that can be used in Minnesota while they're engaging in hunting and game, taking game. Particularly, we're really interested in the advancement of the muzzleloader provisions. The Fire Stick is a really great advancement in muzzleloading technology. I just want to give a brief story for my muzzleloading experience, where I was out at Carlos Avery muzzleloading hunting. I had fired my shot. I had the pop of my primer, but the round didn't ignite. So I had in my hand, and for my whole car ride home until I got back to my workbench, a firearm that had a projectile and a powder charge, and all it needed was something ready to ignite that powder charge to set it off. And that's an unnerving feeling. I mean, even though you take every single precaution possible, you just have that unnerving feeling. And this technology advances that, but we can't use it in Minnesota without this fix. So look forward to seeing this advance this year. I hope this is the final year, the year that we get it done. I've testified in front of Jamie Becker-Finn's committee over in the House, trying to get this done a couple years ago, and I hope this is the year. So thank you, and happy to stand for any questions.
Members, any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Dorr. Any, Senator Sinjum?
Mr. Chair, I think I commented on this a year or so ago, but I am, and we all live in different places, and I happen to live in a city that it's in many respects growing into wooded areas. And in those wooded areas, people do hunt deer. And so I look at section 14 here with respect to getting rid of the shotgun zone, and I get kind of nervous. And I'm going to have to talk to my city council and county board about where I ought to be on this, but on a personal basis, I'm pretty nervous because there is hunting in close proximity to Rochester. It's just the way it is, and we've got along. Nothing has ever happened, but I do have some concerns about that.
Okay, thank you, Senator Sinjum. Mr. Meyer.
Perhaps.
Madam, or Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Senator Sinjum, we fully recognize that, and we're willing to work with you on what that language would look like. If you need that, municipalities can also provide their own requirements on those hunts. What we're seeing in the shotgun zone is now with federal language and definitions of firearms, people are able to use handguns in rifle calibers, but they cannot use rifles in rifle calibers. So as technology continues to grow, we just saw the Fire Stick, the muzzle loader language we're talking about, so do these other cartridges. So there are a lot of different cartridges people can use to remain safe. Historically, that shotgun line was established, people thought, because it was too easy to shoot deer in these fields. If you look at where the shotgun zone lies within the state of Minnesota, it primarily falls the agricultural zone. And the thinking was at that time that if these fish it'd be like shooting deer in a barrel. I mean, no pun intended, but it'd be too easy with a rifle. Our deer populations are such now that we need hunting to actively manage populations in many areas of the state, and allowing people to do so in a safe fashion is a lot more effective than trying to dictate some other types of cartridges that may or may not be used based upon how you hold the firearm. So any questions or comments, concerns we can help you address, please let us know. We're here to work with you.
And Madam Chair, member, I'm just worried about, high-powered rifles and within blocks of city residents in our city. And I think everybody would be. So anyway, we can talk more.
Mr. Bennett, did you have anything to add?
Not really, Mr. Chairman. I think that Corey Bennett represents the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association. I think Commissioner Meyer laid it out very specifically. I just wanted to let the committee know that the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association is supportive of this section of the bill. Again, we vetted this very thoroughly with our association, and not only this year, but last year. And from our purposes and from our point of view, we want people out in the field that feel comfortable with their firearm. And we feel that this provision would allow that to happen. We're not, again, in these zones already have pistols that can be used right now during the deer hunting season that are caliber specific to deer hunting. We also have muzzle loaders that are shooting 200 plus yards very accurately that obviously can be used during the muzzle loader season. During the fox coyote hunting, large caliber weapons or ammunition and calibers of weapons can be used as well. As Mr. Meyer said back just a few minutes ago, when this was first initially set up, I always, having grown up in Minnesota, I always thought that this was set up because of safety purposes. Little did I know that when they set these up, and Commissioner Meyer said it very well, it was not set up for safety reasons. It was only the reason it was set up is from a harvest and management standpoint. I certainly understand Senator Senjum's comments. I'm willing to work with you as this bill moves forward potentially, and we'll figure some things out. I also just wanted to point out that Wisconsin has had this into effect for the last 7 or 8 years, and from the best of my knowledge, there has not been any sort of safety issues. And so if there was some sort of safety concerns, believe me, my association would not be supporting this, but we just, from the data that we've seen from other states and from what we believe the reason this was set up to begin with, we don't believe it would be of a safety concern. But I certainly understand your comments, Senator Senjum.
Madam Chair, and perhaps to the witness, would you be willing to work with me and my city council and county board on this one a little bit, have some conversation, albeit even a Zoom?
Certainly, certainly. We would be happy to work with you and try to figure out language that would be of a comfort or try to address some of your concerns.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Dorr.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. To this point, we're well past the toothpaste being out of the tube with the rifles in shotgun zones. With the creation of a pistol, you could have a .308 caliber pistol with a 14.5-inch barrel that can shoot just like a rifle can, but because you don't put it up against your shoulder, it's legal to hunt in these shotgun zones. That's what people have been doing to circumvent the shotgun zone requirements under Minnesota's law, which again was instituted for ethical hunting reasons, not for safety concerns. North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, all of them allow rifles statewide. They have very flat lands around there. There hasn't been a safety concern. City councils and counties can regulate which parts of the city or county are able to be hunted on in general if there's a safety concern. But when I'm a range officer up at Forest Lake Sportsman's Club, there are people coming with these slug rifles that are shotguns rather, slug shotguns that are specifically designed to shoot sabot slugs out of a rifled barrel, and they're hitting paper plates at 300 yards. If you're standing at with a rifle leveled at 5 feet and you're shooting at a deer that's 500 yards away, if you're shooting at a deer, that bullet is in the ground at 500 yards for like a .308 caliber. If you're shooting a shotgun, it's in the ground at about 300 yards. So there's not a really strong safety concern. If you're in an elevated platform, it's even less because you're shooting at a downward angle. So while I understand the theoretical concerns of hunting near buildings, there's already regulations about distance from occupied buildings and things like that in the current DNR handbook. I just don't think those safety concerns have been realized. But what's happening is the DNR, the conservation officers' interpretation of our statutes have infringed upon a lot of our members who are using these legal pistol caliber rifles. They get them seized, they might get them back. There's just been some back and forth, and because of the unclear language and the conflicts between states' definitions and federal definitions, that just making it the same uniform standard statewide is going to make it easier for hunters and gun owners all across the state.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Members, any further comments or questions? If not, final comments, Senator Ruud.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you can see, we have seen a lot of these issues before, and we passed them out of this committee. And so I really appreciate your support on this bill.
Senator Ruud moves that 2767 as amended be recommended to pass and be re-referred to the State Government Finance Committee. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Bill is passed and hereby re-referred. Thank you. With that, we have concluded our business for the day, and this hearing will stand adjourned.
Thank you, Senator Weber.